Call the meeting to order. And we'll do the roll call. Gary Mertick.
Here.
Kathy Shooting here. John Wiener.
Here.
Marty Vitek.
Yep.
Rich Huber.
Yes.
Very good. Next, I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. Any corrections or additions?
I'll approve the agenda for August 18th.
All right,
I'll second it.
John and Marty. All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Public comments, anybody here to do that? Anybody for public comments online? Hearing none, we'll move on. Approval of the Forestry and Recreation meeting minutes from August 18th. We're looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Gary makes the motion.
Oh, I'll second it.
And Rich is seconding. All those in favor?
Aye.
DNR reports, fishery. Wildlife,
Jenna sent me an email last week. She's on vacation.
okay,
Her and her intern have been working all summer and fall now on wildlife opening maintenance in the county forest. So they go out and they hand treat wildlife openings, they cut the brush and then they try to mow them. They've had limited success this year because of the equipment they've been given to use, but they've been working all summer and all fall on it, so. That was basically what she had to report.
okay. However, we appreciate the update. Avery Jenkins,
That's me.
that's you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I don't think I've met everyone in the room, but I'm Avery Jenke. I'm the liaison to the county forest and I work out of Mellon. I've been there since last November, so coming up on 1 year in Mellon. But not a whole lot to report this time around. In September, we had our annual partnership meeting with Chris and Matt and Jerome. It's a meeting we have every year. It's a required meeting where we kind of look back at the past year and talk about what we've done and kind of where we want to head for the next year. We think we're sitting pretty comfortable. We have a good relationship going. We're not really expecting, any big changes in the way we're doing business. We contribute about 900 hours to the county forest every year, and we're not expecting that number to change. We're pretty comfortable with where it's at. One thing coming up that shouldn't really give us any heartburn, but DNR is going through what they call strategic direction. So that's every 5 years they kind of reevaluate programs and make changes if need be. And sometimes those can be really big changes and sometimes it's not so big, but we'll hear more about that later in October. So if there's any big changes to report, we'll hear about them then. Besides that, we've just been doing business as usual on the county forest. We'll be setting up one timber sale this fall yet, and just working on some other projects as normal. That's all.
Thank you, Avery. Snowmobile ATV report, Bill Chandler.
I'm gonna unmute him right now.
Hello, Bill.
It's not letting me unmute him. I'm asking to unmute him, but it's not letting me.
Do they have it muted on their end?
They must. I don't know if they know how to unmute it on their end.
Bill, you might be muted on your end.
Can you hear me, Bill?
Nothing. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, let's go on to the next one, and if we can get them back up on there, we can do it down the list. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Recreation Officer Bruce Jonas.
I'm reporting from April 1st of this year through September 30th, and multiple citations for ATV warnings. Working on a few MFL violations within the county and within the Ashland County Forest. We had one ATV crash with injury. That's all.
What, can you give an example? I don't want to know the details of this, but of what a MFL violation might be.
When a piece of land goes into that, either, what is it, FFL or
MFL.
MFL, and then what's the other one? There's another one. It gives, was it?
FCL.
Yeah. And then you can correct me if I'm wrong. It gives a tax break to the owner.
Right.
And then with MFL, you can hunt, fish, snowshoe, and there's something else. With the other one, it's just hunt and fish. But there's caveats where you can't have a blind, you can't have a camera, so forth and so on. And we're running into some of those.
And same thing with Martin's thing, don't give details personal, but about the crash for the ATV.
We need to know.
What road was it on?
Wildcat up in the town of Ringo.
Okay,
Appears that he was stopping for a stop sign, he was gonna negotiate a turn. And just based on the evidence, not sure exactly what happened, doesn't appear there was any equipment problems.
and he went over the end?
No, it ended up flipping in the road.
Oh, okay.
He said it felt wrong or something, and the next thing he knew, he was, it overturned on the roadway, ended up in the ditch, maybe on top of when we had severe head injury. Going through numerous physical therapy sessions, has some speech problems, so could have some traumatic brain injury, so it's gonna be a long road to recovery.
Was he wearing a helmet?
No.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say this because I'm working on a project, and this is not to be negative about any department or anything, but managed forest law allows the landowner to put their land into that program and then get a tax break. The idea of that program originally was it would be monitored to be cut at every so often. And what's going on is a lot of reasons. The landowners aren't cutting their land on time. It could be simply that the department hasn't had a chance to really get to these properties enough and say, hey, it should have been cut 10 years ago. It could be the economy we're in. It's pretty tough to sell wood, but I don't believe a person should have managed forest land forever and never cut their property under the contract. The contract, as I call it, really not a contract, is that it's supposed to be managed. And if it's not being cut for 10 years after it was supposed to be, and I can show you multiple examples of this happening for a lot of reasons. In one case, one person said, well, I don't want to get the capital gains. That ain't part of the contract. And right now everybody knows wood is tough to move. So, but I just don't think you should get a tax rate forever and not manage your land. The whole purpose of the program is to manage the forest, not let it go 20 years beyond when it was supposed to be cut. So that's just a personal opinion of where I'm trying to get the state to look at these things and say, hey, I know it's a manpower issue, but you can't have somebody out there that was supposed to be cut and was told to get it cut 20 years ago and it's still sitting there. That's not the way the program is supposed to work. And of course now, like I said, we're in an economy where it's really tough. If you did want to cut it, who's gonna cut it for you? So it's not all the landowner's fault, but it's just, why would you get a tax rate forever and never have to manage your land? And the thing is too, the public's, even though the DNR does a great job of showing which properties, 40s or anything else are open for hunting and fishing, where most of the confusion comes is people think they can drive into that property, and that's not true at all. You can get to the property, but you can't drive on unstrict permission, and that's where we've been running into some issues too in some areas. Especially in the central part of the state, people just assume, well, it's open for hunting and fishing, so I'll just drive down this road without asking, so, you know, it's the same thing all over, but like you say, I just don't think you should call it managed land if it's not being managed, and it's not anyone's fault, it's just a combination of issues, so.
That
Marty?
kind of contrast with 20, 30 years ago, when the complaint was individual landowners are being, not harassed, but being told that they gotta actually do a management plan and actually do this stuff. But their argument was, well, you have an Akusa here who does whatever they want, whatever they want. That seems to be the case. And that was, you know, well, evidently it's reversed from that.
Yeah.
Well, what is the recourse for that to do something about it? Who does anything about that then?
Well, the DNR technically handles those situations, and I've had contact with the DNR over the last 10 or 12 years on what's the recourse, like you say, and then basically, the landowner is basically told, here's the plan,
Okay,
but if it doesn't get cut, there doesn't seem to be enough manpower, and I'm not blaming the DNR, it's the issue all over. Doesn't seem to be enough manpower to go and say, hey, this has been sitting on the books for 10 years. I don't know if you call it a permit or what, but the DNR tells the landowner, your property is due for cutting.
Right.
And then they can get extensions. But at what point does 10 years that's not an extension anymore, that's just, we're not gonna do it. And it's not managing the land. The whole idea behind the tax rate was to manage the forests and so like I say, it's not our problem, but it's an issue that's out there. And I don't know if it'll get corrected with the logging industry the way it is.
But in that 10-year period, there's been ups and downs in the market. So should have been able to catch one of those problems, I would say.
well, if they got a fine every year that they didn't do it, maybe, I mean, I don't know, that's a.
But that's a realistic argument because you can't expect a person to go and log it with the market.
It's bad, yeah.
And cutting wood isn't just about cutting wood, it's managing that property. And it's good for wildlife, it's good for everything else. And like you say, now the market is terrible, so. Good, thank you.
Gary, thanks for the great discussion. I like the way you presented it. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pass around the vouchers for the committee to sign. And while that's going around, we'll have the forest administrators report.
Okay, well, the reason for having this meeting today is to ask for permission to advertise and sell timber sales in December. Wanted to do it now just in case something comes up where we can't meet in November. So I would look for the committee's approval to sell timber in December.
I would like to make that motion to put a timber sale up in December.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
All right.
Motion passes.
I don't have a whole lot else to report on. Timber revenue through today is $483,701. We've had timber sales going pretty much all summer and fall. There's only a couple left that are in operation right now, which is normal in the fall. And we'll see what winter brings when the ground freezes up. Hopefully we continue at least at the pace we've been moving at.
Our market's getting any better.
They're not getting any worse, but they're not getting any better. Things don't sound really good down in Park Falls for that paper mill, so but that's not been a big contributor to the timber markets around here in the past, so.
How about the rapid?
I've not heard anything out of Rapids in the last month or so. I heard that at one point in time there was an offer to purchase that mill, but it was an unsolicited offer, so it kind of got sidelined by Verso. But I haven't heard anything since.
Chris, at the Northwest Regional Planning, there was a discussion that they have a buyer. on the Park Falls?
So the Park Falls Mill has been purchased
Right.
by a company called Maynard, which is a scrapping outfit. They typically try to work with any interested parties in reopening those businesses before they go to scrapping them. And they're supposedly still negotiations to try to make that happen. But at the last city council meeting, it didn't sound very promising. So it has been purchased. It is out of receivership. It is owned by Maynard. They paid $2.2 million for it. But now it's just, we're kind of waiting to see what the next shoe to drop will be, whether it'll be an attempt to operate the mill or if they're just gonna move into scrapping.
Yeah, that was a big discussion. They really were pushing to get that person operating again.
How much timber are we selling? Maybe how much?
Do you know the total number of sales we'll put up, Matt? We've got quite a slug of sales that we've been kind of holding back because we've been hoping the markets would improve. But I think we're just gonna put them all up this fall and see what shakes loose.
So it's quite a bit then.
But is the price is down from where we were, obviously.
Correct.
So depending on those bids.
John?
How often do you adjust your stumpage sales?
We adjust ours. The state allows us to adjust our base rate stumpages on an annual basis,
Annual, yearly basis?
yearly basis.
Yearly basis.
We can adjust them incrementally on each timber sale as we put it up, if we find a reason to adjust that stumpage. Most counties try to chase the markets around with their stumpage. We made the decision a number of years ago, we were just gonna set our stumpage rates in the basement and allow the markets to dictate what they were gonna pay. So like a cord of hardwood pulp, we've had our minimum set at $15 a cord for 10 or 12 years now, and the market just dictates what they're gonna pay.
Who makes the decision? You make the decisions on them? or-
We make the decision as a department.
The town?
The three foresters that work for the town.
Okay. I was just wondering, I mean, I'm not probably out of the question here, but have you ever considered like putting $1 cord away on the side to help other things? You know what I mean by that?
Well, we take 10% of our annual timber stumpage goes to the towns
Right.
now in the form of a pill payment. The original intent of that money was to help maintain the roads that the county forests were using to get product out of the towns into market.
Because I'd like to go one step farther, because now, the town of Jacobs has been, they finally got a cat. And so they can they've been doing a lot of work up on the eastern fire lanes and stuff. And they've been doing very good work. They're draining the ditches, putting gravel up there. I got them to open up a pit. So good crushed gravel. They're doing a lot of work, more work than I've ever seen in many years. It's been done up there. I don't know if you've been up there lately, but they're doing a fantastic job up there. And I had the town give you a printout of their hourly and what time and how much time they spend up there, you know? And it is, we spend a whole lot more time and money than what we get, you know? I don't know how far I can push that anymore.
Well, specific to the town of Jacobs, I can speak to some of those issues. Matt applied for a sustainable forestry grant here 2 years ago. We got, what was the total on that grant?
Well, between the two of them, it was $50,000 or $60,000.
So we got $60,000 worth of grant money 2 years ago. And we identified 4 projects in the county forest that were on town roads that we realized that the towns could not afford to remediate the issues that they were having on these particular stretches of road. They would wash out every time it would rain, the roads would wash out because the ditching was inadequate, the culverts were inadequate, they were failed, they were full, whatever. We used that grant money to hire the highway department to go out in the county forest and rebuild town roads for the towns. We supplied everything. We did all the work and we paid for all the work. So we did 4 projects in 3 different towns to use that money to help remediate those issues so that the towns wouldn't have to deal with those washouts anymore. And then specific to the town of Jacobs, we have provided 10 acres of good gravel ground for them to put their gravel pit on. Now, they have to pay for the crushing, but we supply the stumpage of the gravel for free. We're not charging them any stumpage for the gravel as long as it gets used within the county forest. And then we also bought just over $4,000 worth of culverts for the town of Jacobs this year. So the county is doing above and beyond that 10% of timber stumpage. But it's coming in a lot in-kind type donations to the town so that they can complete the work and the projects that they need to do. We also started a project this year where the towns buy the herbicide, we supply the manpower and the equipment to spray the right-of-ways. So we can get those right-of-ways open back up so that when they go to grade, they can actually get the mold board out into the right-of-way and bring that gravel back onto the road and get that sod off of those roads. So we are doing what we can do to help the towns with those road projects. And I've had this conversation with Todd before with the town of Jacobs, that if there's something else that he thinks we can help them with, all he's got to do is pick up the phone or come and see me. And I see him almost every day in Park Falls. So if there's something else that we can do to help any of the towns with any of the road projects, we're more than willing to look at it. But obviously you guys understand where we're coming from as far as our budget and what we can afford to do or not do. So I mean, we've done a lot to try to assist the town of Jacobs and the town of Agenda. We're working on getting the town of Agenda a permitted pit now too. So we're trying to do what we can do to help the towns in maintaining those roads.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I appreciate any kind of help that you could give us, you know,
Right,
about that.
right.
I mean, like I say, we are doing our best too.
Right.
And what's basically, what really rips up the roads are the truckers, you know?
Yep.
And we don't see any money from truckers, I guess, for the stumpage, I guess. You know, basically what it is, you know?
Right. That's what this department provides back to the town.
So that's the kickback for the trucking situation.
It's supposed to, the original intent of the 10% payment was to put that money back into the roads. What the town does with the money is up to the town. They can do whatever they want.
I think, no offense, but if the towns would put a chart up on a wall and say, hey, we're getting the second highest of the 10% of any town.
Yes.
You get like 36, 37% of the total 10%. They get that dollar. They get road tax on the road because it's a town road. And then all the in-kind stuff that the county's doing for it. If they did list that all down, they wind up with a lot of money. You know, like you say, what they elect to do with the $25,000 a year to get from the 10% in normal years. This year it might be a little less, but I'm assuming last year they got over $20,000. You know, they need to put it in perspective and say, okay, we have to maintain the road, but look at what we got. Because
the thing is now too is that the cost of things now, cost of equipment doesn't really cover anything that we're getting, you know what I mean? Everything is gone up, but that thing is pretty much staying there. But equipment costs, labor costs, everything has gone up, and I'm not complaining or anything, but we're doing the best we can. I just brought the situation up to you that I've appreciated any kind of help we can get. I know you're doing a good job on everything, but we're doing our best too, and it's my job to inform people, that's all. And so I'm very much involved with the town. I go to their meetings. I spend way too much time, but that's volunteer groups. But anyway, thank you.
And John, thank you for having a great discussion,
Yeah.
keeping it calm. You like calm, Gary?
Chris, did you say you weren't on the call for the county board meeting yesterday?
That's correct.
Okay, we have to be able to tell the full county board that this stumpage is down from most years. Because the comments several times yesterday were, well, we could get more money from stumpage, like it fell out of the tree or something.
Yeah.
And I cautioned everybody that you know, the $1 million in stumpage we had several years back, that's gone for now. Maybe, hopefully it'll come back, but, I don't understand why they came up at least twice yesterday. Somebody said, well, we could just
Get more money.
get more money out of stumpage, and I think we need to impress on the next meeting we have that, hey, this is where we are, this is where we would like to be, but we're not there. Money isn't falling here. And then I have a concern too that the forestry, even though they keep talking about general county dollars as a whole, everybody keeps coming to the forestry department's budget to take money. I mean, no offense to Chamber of Commerce, but the $35,000 or whatever we wound up ending up with yesterday has always come out of this budget. And you could argue that, well, it's still general county dollars, but maybe at some point we should say, okay, we're still gonna give them that money, but we're gonna earmark it somewhere else, because every dollar we take out of this budget just makes this budget look like it's an untapped source of revenue. And somebody's gotta understand, at 483, where are we gonna wind up at the end of the year? I mean, do you have a?
Well, our estimate was 550. I think we'll be close. We probably won't be right spot on.
I mean, but for years, we had like a 750 goal.
Our goal, our number traditionally in past markets has been 7 to 750.
And see, that's my concern, is that the full county board has to understand that we're not where we were 2-3 years ago.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
yesterday, when that kept coming up, I kept thinking, it's not there's a line here. You can't keep taking money out of this budget.
Well, and it's one of the smallest budgets departmentally wise in the county, at like $270,000. It's our total budget. That's all in. That's wages, benefits, fuel, paint. Well, those are our big ticket items, expense wise, for what we do. And none of it gets levied because it's all paid for with timber revenue.
Like I say, because it came up several times yesterday from different counselors about, well, we can just tap more.
I think they think it's just like free money when we sell the wood. It's 100% ours, we just give it out to everybody.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way though.
So just heads up, because you know, that budget will get approved in early November, but. So good, thank you.
Great discussion, Gary. I'm glad you kept it nice and calm. We want calm nowadays.
That's all we do in forestry.
Well, you didn't watch yesterday.
The money goes to Ashley County, and they don't do anything, period, to help us out, so I don't know why they get that money. They could be shoving us back to us, but that's on my range. But I mean, they don't do anything for us, do they?
Are you talking about
The money that goes to Ashley County is the us.
from the 35,000?
Yeah,
Oh, that goes to chamber, and then they do
yeah,
the,
but I mean, it doesn't help us here though.
well, it brings $1.5 million back to the county, and then the chamber, I think it's 70%, and the county gets 30%. For the county to decide how they're gonna spend their 30%.
Yeah, but even the 30%, what do they do with it? I mean.
I don't know
it's
what the
free
county
money,
does
though,
with it,
that's-
but
well,
Mary
it's
McFetcher's
free
been
money,
talking about
and
she
it
spent
should be
70.
separated a little bit different, but anyway, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think it's very easy to track the cause and effect kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not a straight line. It's hard to follow. The total dollars come in and get spent out.
Right.
But to equate one with the other, I don't think. It's hard.
But I mean, you can put it differently too. We probably would give them 35,000. But using all our trails and stuff and bringing all those people in for tourists, we get a lot more money back than 35,000.
Oh,
So I mean,
1.5 million.
it's a win-win situation for
It's
us.
a win.
Use our trails and.
All I can say is, please don't bring tourism back to forestry. Please don't bring tourism back to forestry.
It's huge, Chris,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I don't think the public understands how huge it is up
But
there.
in forestry, we spend a lot of time working on tourism related issues. Like right
Right.
now, there's a lot of bird hunters here that are not from Ashland County. They're
Right.
from downstate, they're from other states, and we spend a lot of time all summer long making that happen. So we do our part for tourism, but we don't need Mary's job passion.
No, that,
No.
no, I don't think there's any man in this room that wants her job.
I should have told Mary yesterday, that this is probably the best grouse year I have seen in 30 years. I don't know what it is, but I have seen more grouse this year than I've seen in a long time.
All those grouse seeds we put out last fall.
It must be.
She gave us the summary yesterday, and it was a very good one,
Yes.
very good.
And John, just to kind of give some more information, so this weekend Whistle Stop is here in Ashland County. And that is in order to go to the Boston Marathon, you have to have 3 qualifying marathons to run the Boston or the New York. The Whistle Stop is that is so huge, that's one of the qualifiers to go to the Boston Marathon. And it's right here in our county. And everybody comes, if you get 3,000, 5,000 people, they gotta have food, motels, gas, everything. It's huge. There is not a motel in Ashland County starting from Memorial Weekend, probably to Labor Day. It's packed. You can't get a motel. And they said it's $230 for a single room, and $15 of that money comes back to the county through the, what did they call that again? Room tax, thank you. So when she's doing a lot of this advertising, it may look like a lot of it's not from here. It's to the Minneapolis area, it's to Madison, it's to Iowa, it's to Chicago. Everybody wants to come up north to get away from the rat race down there, so. Tourism is huge up here.
Don't ever underestimate Mary. Yesterday, I thought her presentation was really good because she targeted butternut.
Yes,
Yeah.
I saw that.
She did.
And that was a very strategically smart move on her part.
Yeah.
Because she showed the video and she showed.
Yes.
I actually thanked her for that. I mean, I got a cutback on it because they said that on the website, they say that we're favored here than we're nationally. Said, no, I didn't see that, but.
So remember to call her and thank her for that great presentation. She did a
Good
lot.
job.
You know, and going a little farther, I mean, what about like going a little farther, like, making bike trails and stuff? I mean, that would be money that would have to come from the recreation department, or where would that money ever come from? Like, if you wanted to build, mountain bike is getting to be a huge thing.
It's huge.
Huge thing. And there is no bike trails around here that I know of.
In Sawyer County there is.
The Dead Horse Trail they've been using.
Is a pedal bike?
Yep.
The Dead Horse, but not right in this area though.
And I believe you can check, I believe you can use an electric bike on some of the Forest Service trails, but you might want to check because the supervisor 2 years ago said they could, which was a surprise, but that could change if it got from a higher up. The other thing is the county is looking at putting a bike lane on GG. That's how we applied for this grant, to see if the feds will help pay to repave from Mellon to Clam Lake and put a bike lane on. The advantage of doing that is it means the road will get widened out. That road is terrible to begin
It's
with.
narrow.
But if we can get the federal grant to help pay for that bike lane, it not only encourages bikers, but it helps us in promoting that road for other things too. So.
Yeah. I was thinking like the old railroad tracks, I mean, the feds, they own it, but I mean, what a great opportunity to have a bike trail there or something. Anyway, that was just a suggestion, so thank you anyway.
I got one thing too.
Way to go, Rich. Keep it calm.
No, I know they don't, they probably can't help us, but I mean, if we had more of those campsites opened up that are closed, that would help us out tremendously as far as tourism and camping and everything else. But that's federal. So how would you go? We'd have to contact our.
Well, you could go right to Hayward and contact the supervisor of the Great Divide.
Yeah.
And then they would probably contact somebody in Rhinelander or Hayward. I'm not working for them anymore, but certainly they need to hear that. I have been advocating for Lake 3 for
Many
ever.
years, yeah.
And in the worst case, you advocate for Lake 3, then close the thing And then you could go in there and camp anyways. So you can't camp there now because it's not technically closed. You
Yeah.
can camp anywhere in the forest except a closed or campground.
The campgrounds, yeah,
But if they take everything out of there,
then you can't.
then you could go in there and camp on your own and it wouldn't cost you.
Gary, in line with that, this year, there's a guy at the East Twin Lake.
Yep.
And he's been there all summer,
You can host.
doing a lot of work that some of the employees from the Forest Service would be doing.
Right.
Apparently, they can't go and empty the money to.
Right.
But my question is that now since Labor Day, was asked and or is staying through October or something to that effect. He's taking on more responsibility where he's checking other campsites.
And he's doing beaver.
Well, he's doing beaver, I think he's doing black,
Black was, well, he might
Right.
now because
yeah, once school
Travis
started,
started.
right. So my question and following up with this is that he's not getting paid for this.
Right.
His payment is staying at the campsite. The Forest Service is getting a lot of work out of him where they don't have to pay any other employees. So the money there, going back to why are we closing these? Town of Marengo Lake 3, we were throwing around the idea, as was Chippewa, with Stock Farm before they reopened it, to take it over. And what the Forest Service wanted to do with the town running it, it didn't come out money-wise to where, why would the township want to step into that mess? Because of, not having the money and then, having more responsibilities again. I don't understand if they're having these campground hosts do what they're doing, especially this guy, why they wouldn't open them up and get the money. I mean, obviously they did fee studies and said it's not paying for itself, or there's not enough people coming there, it costs too much money. But when they're not paying anything except letting the guy camp there,
Yeah.
I
That's the old
think they're
problem.
getting a good deal out of it.
Yeah, I know 6 years ago, that question kept coming up, why are you closing campgrounds? Because I went to school for marketing. If you close them, you're not getting anything.
Right.
But they said, well, camping's way down. Well, it hasn't been the last 2 or 3 years.
No.
They have been nonstop. Matter of fact, in Day Lake, they reopened those 2 closed campsites at certain times during the summer because they couldn't find people, people to stay. But, yeah, I pick on Lake 3 only because I've been there so many times, but that campground only had like 7 or 8 sites. How much maintenance is that? But you have to convince somebody at the top level. Somebody says, well, it would cost us this much to reopen it. So what?
Yeah.
The site is there, but I agree. I remember that discussion with the town where they wanted to keep all the fees and pay the town a small stipend and make the town pay for the garbage removal and everything else. But yeah, I think those of us been around a little while, remember Chris and us have talked about, different opportunities within the county forest. We looked at that land that was shortly available up by Conley Road and stuff, and it'd be great to have a county park.
Yeah, campsites.
We'd have to have the spot and
So how would this work? As a forestry, we would send like a proposal or a letter to them, or as a county board would send them a letter for the US forestry.
You mean to open campgrounds?
Yeah, to see what we can get going.
Well, it could start on an individual basis. And then, I don't know, we'd have to look into whether or not.
Well, I think there's a lot more, just in what I've experienced, there's a lot more clout in the individual basis than there is like in the county getting involved.
Oh, okay.
That in the past, when they reopened Stock Farm and some of those that they had originally shut down, that came from grassroots,
Yeah.
from the people.
From the people.
Yeah.
I mean, I sat in a lot of meetings with the Forest Service at that time. They didn't care about what the county had to say. It was the people.
So we have to get,
Because ultimately, that's where the pressure comes from. The county doesn't vote, the people vote.
we have to get taxpayers to complain
In the
about
case of
it.
Stock Farm, it was the town of Chippewa did a lot of work, sending messages, a lot of four-wheeling groups, because that's used a lot by four-wheelers,
Okay,
grouse hunters, And so, yeah, I agree. I think individually, people sent letters and or called and said, you know, you can even email. You go on the Forest Service website, you can find like the Create Divine. And it goes into like Hayward, but if it goes into video, get it to Hayward too. And then if enough people keep talking about it, maybe they will have a public discussion about it.
I went to the Glidden, Forestry and questioned some of them things that you're talking about, and then basically they just threw back to me that they don't have a budget and they don't have the money for it. So that's probably what cuts down 90% of everything. They just.
But if you had-
99%.
if you had a campground open and we're collecting
I
fees,
know,
you'd have some.
You and I
more
both know that, but to convince them that they weren't.
And they would be full too. But if they opened all those campsites up, every campsite would be full.
They would be,
Because for the last few years now, you can't even get a reservation if you don't get it way in advance,
And then,
because they're all full.
they raise the prices all the time, so, you know, it ain't staying the same, but anyway.
I'll add a little to this discussion. Lake 3, I constantly get calls. When is Lake 3 opening up again? Is it gonna open up again? And it is a very rustic campground, but that's what people are looking for. They don't want electricity. They don't want flush toilets. They wanna be out in the woods, and rustic is what they're looking for, so.
And yet it's close enough to Marengo area where they just don't have that far to go camping. Yeah.
Anyway, good discussion, guys. All right, number 9, other business. I have 2 things. So Gary, your work schedule, when you were working for Forestry, we had the meetings at 9 and then we moved them to 8.
No, that wasn't me. Those times got changed for people coming from up county here. In the winter, they wanted to come a little later. In the summer, they could come earlier. So it's up to this committee. I can come anytime up 2
Okay.
minutes from here.
Because I think the committee would like to change it back to 9 o'clock permanently.
Whatever works, it's.
Very good.
I think.
You know,
Six
Richard
works
retired,
best for me.
Yeah.
6 works good for me too. I'm gonna motion to agree with it. No.
I get
So,
paid to be here, so I'll be here whenever you guys want me.
all right, so what I'm gonna do is do a roll call vote to change the time of the meeting to 9 o'clock AM.
Okay.
Gary Mertig,
Yes.
Kathy Shooting, yes. John Mia,
Yes.
Marty Dietrich.
Yep.
Rich Huber.
For sure.
So somebody put that in the form of a motion and we'll get it second and get it officially put on the books.
I'll make a motion that we have our meetings at 9 AM.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
We kind of did that backwards, copy.
Yeah, that's okay. We did it backwards, but that's okay.
We won't tell anybody.
It's on recording. Anyway, so each meeting now will be at 9 o'clock in the morning instead of 8. All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to discuss under other business? John, you look like you want to say something.
No, I'm kind of happy right now.
I'm glad you're happy.
I'd like to, say something about, well, I don't know if Bill's on or not, but, are the snowmobile trails, are they getting,
They're being worked on.
because it's a nice dry year, so you can
They've been working
do
on
lots of stuff. Okay.
Even the rookies are getting sunbirds, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's been a lot of work being done this
Do they
summer.
have-
Brushing and-
You have a map that you look at and do, or you just do them out of the blues, or you just do the important
It
ones?
isn't them.
Well, it's not us, so we'd have to talk to the Alliance, but they do annual brushing and mowing.
Yeah.
The brushing is, you know, on a semi-regular basis when it's needed. The mowing gets done annually, in areas where it needs to be mowed.
We did have a discussion a while ago back about maybe trying to get Bill to talk a little bit, or get our make a meeting with these Snowmobile Alliance, the new guy that's on the Alliance Club.
My intent is to invite
It'd be
them,
nice to get on board with them somehow before we get too far into the weather.
well, my intent is to invite Pat, the new
Yeah.
Alliance president, to one of the meetings yet this fall. Now, the Alliance will just start meeting again now in October. So to have him come to the November or December meeting, just to give a little update on what their plans are.
At one of our supervisors' meetings.
At one of our forestry meetings. One of these
Yes.
meetings.
They did
Yes,
unmute
yes.
themselves.
Yeah, that would be,
That was on this committee for quite a while too.
Correct.
That else was on this committee. Are Bill or Kathy Chandler?
They just, I saw the icon change, but the, oh, see if they're, can you hear me now, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right. We have communications with Ambridge that this winter or next winter, they will be working on their pipeline, and a lot of it is going to be covering over our trails. And they want to work with us to relocate, temporarily relocate, and some of the areas that they'll be using for storage of their equipment and stuff, for staging. And that means that one location will go from County Trunk C to County Trunk C in High Bridge area. We would have to run County Trunk C with snowmobiles for the period of time that they have this done, which is going to be a headache. But anyhow, I just wanted you to know about it because it is going to create some backlogs and stuff for us. And then we had to purchase a new trailer to haul the Kubota with because our other one rusted out. We've been done work with the Kubota on Trail 9, 13 in the Butternut area. Well, the stump jumper busted on it, and we had to order a new one, and that came in. We put it on. 16 hours, it cracked all the way around, so we had to take it off, and they replaced it under warranty. So we've been laid up about a month with that. We've done brushing on the tractor on the Tri-County corridor and grading the Tri-County corridor, our portion of it. Brushing done with Kubota on 13, Butternut, and Trail 9. Hand brushing, a power saw, brush cutting, Trail 9 and 13. We attended the Governor's Council for snowmobiling and ORV in Wausau on August the 31st and the 1st. Main things that are working there is to try to abandon the 40-foot rule, and everybody's on board with that, including the governor. So that looks like it's going to pass. We've got AB bills in to have it approved, and final claim was completed for the 2021 supplement, which will be paid at 100%. Thanks to Chris is here for helping with the final bill. We turned in to Tom the final for the dead horse. No pay yet. I believe it's too late to receive it because everything has been, they have a deadline on all of that stuff. And we've got a bill of $2,698.50 that we have not received. That's a lot of money for fuel and time. Problem with trail number 9 that we had last winter, so we couldn't groom part of the new trail that they put in up there on that relocation. I've been talking with Chad Jacobson, and I keep getting a runaround if they're too busy to get up there and do anything with it, but he says they're going to try to do it before December. So right now we're still holding up on that, and we ordered the 5 GPS units to go into the groomer because they're going to micromanage everything we do with the GPS units this year. DNR. And that's what I have at this time. This.
All right, Bill, we want to thank you for coming online and doing the Zoom meeting. It's helpful to hear you every month to give us an update. Thank you.
Bill, just a suggestion, if your route is going to be changed because of Enbridge, could you ask Enbridge if they want to donate some money to help pay some of our expenses for this relocation? I mean, you give money to a lot of people and they're a big outfit. If they're going to disrupt our snowmobile routes or ATV routes because of their construction, then maybe they'd want to donate some money to your organization.
I'm sure they discussed that with you.
Yep.
Yes, we will be discussing it with them because it's going to be pretty detrimental to our snowmobile program whenever they do this. And we do have to have help from the highway department to let us use some of the county trails for temporary. The one area is going to be over about 2 sections of land that we will not be able to get a trail through the forest or through the woods. We'll have to go around the highway.
And I would definitely ask them because it would be in their public interest to assist you with some financial help or equipment or something. And I'm almost sure they would do it. If you need some of our help individually or something, I would sign on to that too. If they're gonna disrupt our tourism dollars and our local people's chance to snowmobile or recreate, I think they would help us.
They have been extremely helpful so far with and easy to get along with, so I'm thinking that they'll probably help us wherever they can.
Right. Yeah, they have a person on staff that's strictly donation type person, so I would certainly look at that. Thank you very much, Bill.
And one more question, Bill, where's the 2 sections that they're making, that we have to move? What township is it in?
Arco Road,
Tom Morris,
Ashland.
Tom Ashland.
Argo?
Yes.
Argo Road.
Over by Bachman's.
Comes in through from the that disc golf area on County Trunk C over to the Bachman area on County Trunk C again, north of Mellon. There is no way to relocate there without going around the highway.
Okay, any other questions for Bill?
I have a couple questions. I just want to know how all the trails are in general. And then I want to know if you have any trouble with culverts or bridges that have to be like widened or replaced or repaired.
We have a bridge behind the post office in Butternut that we're going to be putting in for a new bridge on that in April. We were going to repair it, but the bridge is actually too short now for the embankments. And to put any time and effort and money into repairing that one would be a waste of time. So we've got to get a bigger, longer bridge to put in there. And that's the only new projects that I see right now.
And the trails in general are in pretty good shape now for snowmobile season.
We can't get in on some of this stuff.
Oh, well, it's been really dry this year, I thought.
I have a question too, Bill. Since there's John here, are you getting any volunteer? Are you getting a lot of volunteer help from any of the organizations here?
I didn't hear that.
Can you repeat it louder, John?
Oh. Do you get a lot of volunteers to different organizations to help you out on these situations, like in grooming season, if you're over manpower, if you let anybody use the equipment or anything to help out you for volunteer people that help you out?
No, not this time. We have two people in Butternut, with the Butternut Club down there, and we met last night with them, and both of those guys had triple bypass surgery, so they're going to be out of commission for another 6 or 8 weeks. That's strictly a club trail down there. It's not nothing to do with the funny trail.
Yeah, because I thought maybe some of the lands and Glidden people were doing a bunch of volunteer work. last year or so, but maybe they're not doing it no more. I don't know. But anyway, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything? I have one thing under other business. I want to explain a personal story to you, to give you encouragement not to give up when you've got an issue you're dealing with. My mother and her husband are celebrating 25 years of marriage. He's 91 and she's 86. When they got married 25 years ago, people said, well, what are you gonna do if you get to 25 years? They said, we're gonna have a big party. They made it. They made it through the pandemic. They made it through major heart surgery, cancer. They've had everything thrown at them. And here they are 1 week away from celebrating a big milestone for them. So in honor of my mother, Jean, and her husband, Buzz Brzezinski, they live in Ironwood. That's what your donuts are for today, to remember never to give up when you're faced with a dilemma or deadlines. Don't give up. Keep fighting, keep working, and it just might happen. So in honor of my mother and her husband, potato pancake or potato donuts.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I need a motion to pay the vouchers.
I'll make the motion.
Marty makes the motion,
I'll second.
and Rich is seconding it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any questions on the vouchers?
No, just a note that the Glidden Area Development Corporation got $5,000 grant.
They get a lot of money,
That was through the rec grant
rec grant,
that you asked about. That was that part of that Gordon Lake project.
yeah.
I'll have to bring that up. I can get some of that back.
So you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else anybody wants to say?
I have one thing. Does anybody know where Enbridge is on their permitting process?
They are moving forward.
Is there an end in sight?
They're working on the original route to go around Odena. That is still front and center.
Yeah.
But there's no dates though, that were to be completed, eh?
Well, last year they said they would start right after the frost came out of the ground this year, but that's not happening yet. So there's still work.
Do they have lines straightened out, all designed and
Yes.
worked out?
Yes,
They do.
yes.
It's really good at DNR, I believe. right
So
now.
just-
Well, last year, the big issue last year was crossing the Sault Ste. Marie Bridge or the Mackinac Bridge.
Yeah.
That was what stopped it last year.
Yeah.
All the communication that's come from my office is in the spring. So is when they're gonna start. They never put an end date on it, but that's their start goal is next spring. when the snow's gone.
And just on that issue, a lot of people are worried about the safety of the pipeline. My husband worked for Northern Clearing for 32 years and he worked for Enbridge when they came through. I would encourage all of you to call them, go to the Superior refinery and have a meeting with them and have them talk to you and show you what they do for safety. You will be amazed. They have a computer room that has 3 people in it, 365 days a year. If something happens and the pipeline loses pressure, alarm goes off in that room. One of those 3 people have to answer that alarm. If they don't, it goes for another 10 minutes. If nobody answers that alarm, the pipeline is shut down.
I see there's on the west coast, there's an oil spill out there.
Yeah, that's probably not helping at all.
No, although I don't think we're gonna have a ship in Ashland County with its anchor rip a line out. Maybe some farmer.
So all of these pipelines that you're talking about, if they have a reduction in pressure, 10 minutes and that pipeline is shut down. If they don't, if somebody that say a
They don't acknowledge it.
catastrophic happens in that room and nobody's able to answer that warning that's going off in there, it's shut down automatically.
I would say-
You won't have the big spills anymore. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think that safety is probably their one main
Oh.
focus.
My husband worked down in that pipe when they're digging it up.
I just have a question. when you say the next meeting, November 3rd or December 1st, because the 3rd is a question mark, your bids, you'll take care of those bids anyways.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, when we meet, we'll meet on the 1st for sure to approve contract. And we will have opened those the day before and put all that information.
The 1st of December.
Correct.
Oh, we won't have one in November.
Well, we'll schedule one for November if we need to have one. And then if we don't need to have one, Sarah will send out notice that we're not having one.
Thank you.
Just trying to cover.
Great.
I'm just adding that in.
That's how I lost the water and kicked from, was driving his boat across.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, I'm looking for a
I'll make
motion to adjourn. Gary, and a second, please.
I'll second
Rich, all those in favor?
it. Aye.
Motion passes. We adjourn.